Okay, so recording in progress.
Good.
Noni, ah, thank you so much that I am so delighted, and also I'm so stressed to to see you, to meet you, and that we can talk about your method, about your workshop, and about your way of working, and about maybe a little bit about Frank, if you like, and if
Yes.
you also. Oh,
So
beautiful.
what do you know already? I mean, we haven't met so far.
Well, actually, I was your one of the attending of your workshop 2 years
Ah,
ago, but I was
okay.
online. Yes, because basically I am living in Chicago, so it
Ah,
was a great opportunity to me to be a attender of your workshop. Thanks to that, the workshop is hybrid,
okay.
and
So
so
you were
yeah,
at, it was a hybrid workshop. I forgot about it.
yes, it was a hybrid workshop.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
and it was
You were
like in person. Mhm.
you were online with us.
I were online with you guys. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay, good. So
So it was
I think
beautiful.
you have some questions. It's best you ask me questions and I tell you what I know.
Okay, okay. Well, I thought that it would be like a quiz with you. I have a bunch of questions that I do have, but let me start with this, Noni. Uh, what is the most why the provocative approach and provocative way of working set your soul fire? I after your workshop, I could see that it's like a this way of working that it's just your way. It's mhm.
It was Frank's way. Basically, Frank Farrelly invented this, and I met him
Mhm.
in 1985, and I was enthusiastic from the very first moment because I thought, yes, that's what I want to learn, what I want to do, because it was in contrast to so many ways of doing therapy or coaching before. And
Uh-huh.
I really enjoyed watching him first and then doing it by myself and more understanding what that is, because it's a very complex way to deal with people. And in the beginning, when I met Frank, I didn't understand at all what he was doing. On the surface, it looks like as if he's insulting people or says unfriendly things, but people always felt deeply understood and said, yes, I feel so understood. I know you know what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And then I tried to find out what makes the difference. If you say, let's say in quotes, nasty things, but people feel understood. And the difference is that non-verbally in your heart, you really love your client, you appreciate him or her, you are totally convinced that he or she can do it without you. So make the client independent from the therapist or the coach is a very important part of this way of working. And of course, the humor that is in, because you try to make the client laugh about himself. And you know, this is the most difficult laughter you can have, to laugh about yourself and to especially in situations where you are stuck, you forget laughter. You think that is not funny at all, and I don't want to laugh about it. And the main thing is you don't laugh on somebody. You don't auslachen. What does that mean in English? I mean, if I make fun of somebody, and put myself in a higher status, think I'm better than you, I laugh on, or I think the word is I laugh on you. But we laugh with the client, and the client is uh, we try to make the client laugh about himself, especially on in the points where he's stuck, and that's
Yes.
fun. So I do it for. I met Frank in 1985, and this is almost 40 years ago, and I still love to work that way, and I still think it does not get boring at all. The longer I do it, the more fun it is.
Wow. Nani, you mentioned that the base that the most important assumption of the provocative approach is to have this mindset of loving and caring and think about the client in the good way. But on the other surface is the words that we speak. So we speak different kinds of words that for an observer can means like, oh, it's a little bit harsh on you, or she's harsh on him. But on the inside, it's like, oh my God, I am so understood by you, and I love being in the communication with you. So this incongruency between the non-verbal and verbal communications, I
Yes.
can see it's very important, but it's maybe brings some kind of misunderstanding of this approach.
Yes, of course, but because if you read a transcript of a provocative interview, you think you cannot say things like that. So the total nonverbal part is missing then, and the nonverbal communication is much more important than the verbal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, if you say these in quotes nasty things, you don't talk about anything. You speak out loud what you think that your client thinks or might think, all his fears, and clients put themselves down. If they are stuck, they think I'm not capable to do things, it's bad for me, and so on. And I had, before I found provocative therapy, I had 15 years of training in several ways, like client-centered therapy and NLP and stuff like that. And you always try to support the client by telling him how good he is, how capable he is, and so on. And this only leads to the point that the client says, no, she hasn't understood yet, and more goes into the part of his mind where he thinks, I will
convince you that I am right.
Yes, I am right. I cannot do it. So Frank found out it's essential to agree with the client, but you agree more than he wants you to agree. You say, yes, you are totally incapable to do anything, and you are too old, and you are dumb, and you are too ugly, and whatever. But you never believe what you say. And that is very difficult for beginners, because they say, I cannot say things like that. If somebody comes and says, I have no self-esteem, and then you say, yes, that's inside, there is nothing to be proud of, they say, no, I cannot say that. But if you don't believe what you say, it works, because the client feels understood, because he or she thinks that way. And you say, yes, you're right.
Is it going to be overstatement when I said that the provocative and this deep conversation, this teasing with the client appears when we build the good relationship, that the client, he basically knows that you are teasing him, or basically it's beyond the words, if I can say that.
He feels it.
He feels.
The appreciation you have for the client, and the belief that he can do it, that he is strong, that he has all the resources. A client immediately understands that. Plus, this is the humor and the caricature you make. Plus, then is the provocation is that you say something different, and you provoke the client to immediately go into the part where his resources are. Immediately, if you tell somebody and say you are too ugly or too old or whatever, most clients protest, then say, no, I'm not.
Defend themselves.
Yes, they protect themselves, and they are emotionally in this part of the brain where their resources are. They emotionally feel, no, I'm not that bad. But sometimes I agree, sometimes you really have to overdo things until the client finally protests. Sometimes you think you say ugly things, and the client still says, yes, 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 that's the way it is. Yes, that's what I feel. Then you have to overdo more. It wasn't enough. And it's in the beginning, you think you have overdone so awfully. You have made a horrible picture, and the client still says, yes, I think so too. Jesus, what do I have to say that
that the client will be finally
Yes,
self-affirm himself or something.
exactly. That is resisting, shows resistance. You have in most therapies, I got to know the resistance of the client is a problem, because if you tell a client, say, you can do it, and he always says, no, I can't, then we think, well, he resists against you. But if I agree with the client, he cannot resist against me. He can only resist against himself.
his own
Yes.
Yeah.
it's
So
it's tricky.
like it's tricky, but it's in somehow it's the way out is in. It's like to the client, it's to facing their own fears, blockages, barriers that hold them in that system, and it's like a call up this natural force that it's against those fears, against those blockages, not to confirm them, but to look at them in the different perspective.
Exactly. This is the one part of the humor we use, because you help the client to kind of watch himself from outside. He gets more distance to his problem. He can see it and he can feel it, and he feels the absurdity of what he is doing to himself or herself. So he realizes that he doesn't help himself when he continues the way he thinks or feels or acts. And this is much better than to say him, if you don't change, you have all kinds of disadvantages. You should, and you try to convince him. That doesn't work. I found out it doesn't really work. So it's much better to tell him, no, you cannot change anyhow. So forget it. Just resign and say, okay, that's the way it is, and my life is miserable, but I'm too weak, too old, too whatever to change.
Yeah. You have to accept it.
Yes, exactly.
Somehow live with that. So what's the problem in that for you?
Yeah.
This is the one of the most beautiful questions that I met on the workshop. So what's the problem is for you that? So what's the problem? And then this confusion, this regulation is like it's like a forcing client to find his own solutions, to find his own resources. It's like it's like taking the clients is taking accountability for his own actions, for his own decisions, for his everything that's in my opinion, what's okay, it's maybe this will be the question. What's the role of the coach or therapist in this approach, in a provocative method of working with the client?
Well, I think he's more like a catalyst. Like he doesn't. You never give solutions, only idiotic ones. So the client gets the message. I have to find the solution by myself, but you have like you're giving birth to things that are there. The client has all the resources. And if you are not convinced of this, if you think the client is a poor little thing, and you have to coach him and you have to help him, and without you he will be lost, then don't be provocative, because then the client gets this message. He gets the message, I'm really weak and I cannot do anything.
And so this can be damage for the client.
Yes, and if you are convinced that the client can do it and has the resources, you can say almost anything, and then if you agree and say, I don't know what's the problem. You have lived for 50 years that way, and it worked out somehow. So why not go ahead for the next 50 years? And then you bring in all the things that might was heißt denn verhindern? That might let's say it the other way around. You bring in all the things that where the client is convinced of why he cannot change. And there's a lot of fear in the background. People are afraid of change because they don't know what's going to happen then. So there are many clients prefer their symptoms instead of trying something else, because they don't know what will happen when I change. and their symptoms, they know what it is, they know what's happening afterwards, they know all the results of his thinking and acting and behavior. They know what's coming, and not to know what comes next is very, for many people, it's risky, and especially for clients, but for anybody. If you have try something new, think of yourself. If you do something which you never have done before, this is a risk, and you have fear, and you try to minimize fear. And plus, you're not allowed to be lazy. If you want to change something, you have to do something. You cannot sit in your living room and think that the solution is coming by and you don't do anything. So, and you have to overcome all these, Herrgott, was heißt denn? I haven't talked English for a while, so I just realized
Unfortunately, I don't speak German, so I am not able to figure out what.
Yeah. So you will never know what wonderful things I wanted to say right now, because
I can only imagine.
Yes.
Okay. On your workshop, you said that it's like a provocative style and provocative system in coaching and therapy, and why system? What is under the name of system? Provocative system of.
Yeah, it's provocative. We call it Systemarbeit, which means system work, and this is a word that only appeared in the 80s, let's say, or 90s, in the therapeutic surroundings. But Frank Farrelly invented provocative therapy in the 60s, and he always used the surroundings of a client. When I was studying at university, I learned that you have to watch the client and just the client and what he thinks, what he does, and blah blah. And Frank always made the wife or husband of the client come in, or the parents or the children or whatever. So the social system is very important. And that's why we call it provocative system work. It means you add all these influences that are there, or many of them, or the main influences, whatever comes up. You never know before, but you don't ignore it. You don't change the client in a vacuum. He's always living in a social system. And the saying provocative style is somehow a little difficult, because people think it's just you play something, or it's a style means, yes, it's like a mask you put on, which it is not. You don't.
You very clearly said that it's like a mindset, provocative mindset.
Yes.
And, this kind of attitude that you gain
exactly
after your.
So some people, when they hear provocative style, they think, well, in the beginning I can have a little fun with the client, and then we start to work. But provocative work is from the beginning. It's not a style, it's an attitude. And I think it's important to know that Frank Farrelly invented this in a psychiatric hospital. Yeah, he worked with people in the closed parts
of that institution.
Yeah, exactly. And he provoked them out of this, some of them, which I think is really something.
You mentioned about the Frank Farrelly. What kind of person he was, as a teacher and as a person, because you know him very well. He was your friend.
Yes. He was a friend, yes, and he was very often in our house for 25 years. And I was in various workshops with him. He was a very loving person. I mean, he was really, he felt this attitude towards his clients, to love them, to be supportive, to appreciate them, and so on. And in private, he was the same man he was on stage. I mean, there was no difference. And sometimes he could be really angry. He had a temper, you say. He had a temper. especially when people wanted to, when he did a live work in a workshop or so, and somebody wanted to come and just play and show how intelligent and wonderful he himself is, the client, and didn't want to touch the problem really. So Frank could be really, he could say, okay, give me somebody else. I want somebody to work with.
Who want to work.
Yes.
And not go around.
Yeah. Well, you can use humor as a protection. And that's, you can protect yourself by doing jokes all the time and never really allow the other person to get into your emotional system. And when Frank felt this, he stopped it. He said no. And I don't do this very often, but I did it, let's say, maybe twice in the last 35 years. that I told somebody, I said no, I don't want to continue. Doesn't make sense. If you just want to make jokes, we can have a glass of wine together in the evening, but here, this is work. Yeah.
So basically, what I am hearing, it's like a provocative way of working, and the very important thing is to jungle. I don't know how.
I think it's jungling. No,
jungling. Yeah.
Juggling.
Yes, with this.
Juggling is the word.
Juggling. Yeah, with this. First of all, with this loving, warm attitude, and thinking about the client that he's worthy, and the believing client that he has all resources, and he's capable and able to find all solution and go with the problem the way he wants to go. The second one, the humor and the challenging, to explore the challenging of thinking, of beliefs, of this stuck state. And
that's the provocation, basically. That's
the provocation, yes.
Yes.
And in one of your interview, you said that Frank, you quote Frank's that he was dead serious about the humor.
Yeah, that's what he used to say.
What does it mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to explain. If he thought people use humor to protect themselves and are not willing to really go into it and use it to show how much esprit they have, how intelligent they are, and how quick in their mind and so on, then he said, that's not what I want to show you. That's not what I want to work with. But it was not very often. It happened from time to time. But that's what he meant. He's deadly serious with his humor. That means he really knows what a powerful instrument humor is, but it also can destroy, and it can protect, and it can help you to not show up and stuff like that. And if I feel this with a client, I talk about this. This is one aspect of provocative work, that you always go for the obvious. If somebody tries to protect himself by laughing over the things and not really be willing to go into it, then I talk about that. I say, yeah, it's very good. You should not go too deep into it because it's too dangerous and you are not strong enough to stand it, and so on. So you can also use this. So I think in the workshop, which might be maybe to have a sum up of our talk, we shouldn't do it too long. I think in the workshop, you experience this. I will do live work with clients, with people, not clients, but participants with a real problem. We'll do a lot of exercises where people go into small groups and try it out, how it is if they work as a provocative therapist or coach. And the cognitive explanation only as far as it's necessary. So most of the time I start pretty soon with a live work with somebody, because afterwards you can, with the questions that come up, you can talk about what people are interested in, because this whole provocative approach is so complex that even in 3 days you cannot touch everything. Even after 35 years or almost 40 years, I still discover things I didn't see before. there is a lot of human, a lot in it, how our brain works, and we use this. If you tell somebody you are not good enough and you are too ugly, then you can hope that there comes resistance. Sometimes they say, yes, you're right, I'm ugly. Then you have to find something else to trigger the power that is in the clients.
You started to talk about your workshop. It was like no, I'll start one more time. So on the workshop, what else? So you said that the live demonstration and practice.
Yes.
What basically? Okay, I was at your one of attendance of your workshop, so I know what I gain. But from your observation, what usually the participants gain after your workshop, or what you hear, or what you can see? What's changing during the workshop with the
You want to
participants?
know if I can see that they are changing, or what question?
Because
yeah, of course. I mean, if I do a live work, it's always something starts to move. And my goal in a workshop is that people who are interested in this way of working, I mean, there can also be people who say, yes, it's fun, but I don't want to do it. Yeah, be my guest. I don't mind. But people who are interested in it, so my goal is, I'm aiming to the point that people can really use it the day after the workshop in their private practice, in their work, that they have some instruments in hand they can use. It's one, when Frank did his workshops, you only could learn by copying him. And when I met him first, I was thinking, what is he doing? What the hell is going on here? And I had to find out by myself, because I can work better when I understand what I'm doing. So I try to explain a little bit what's the basic, what are we trying to trigger. And but this all these exercises we are doing help the participants to find out how they work, what's good for them, how they can use it, and so on and so on. So it's a very practical and interactive workshop. And I found out I do these workshops for really for 30 years now, and
a long time.
Yeah, yes, it is. And most of the time it works out, or it always works out, that there are some people who are interested. There is always one or two who say, yes, it's interesting to watch, but I cannot do it, or I do not want to do it. Who cares? But as all people are, should join the exercises, should try it out, should find it out, and they watch me working, and we can discuss questions that come up. So I think it's a pretty good mixture of making this very complex approach learnable. And
learnable
that's
and it's learnable. And if I can say also that it's after your workshop, I got more courage to work with the clients, and then I could see how provocative approach is effective, and how quick it got the client into this thinking.
Exactly. And it is the funny thing is, it's very goal oriented or solution oriented, but you don't give the solution or the goal. The client finds it out by himself, and this is much more efficient, as if you tell him you should do this, you should do that, and make it. If they find out by themselves what they should do, what would be better for them, it's much more nachhaltig. Forgot this word. That means it lasts long. What's the word in English? Whatever.
Long lasting.
Yeah, people sometimes say yes. This for a moment the client sees a different solution, but the next day it's gone. That's not true. It's like a time release capsule you give him, and it releases its power in the days, sometimes weeks, months after they had a provocative interview, because then this starts to work inside. It continues to work. It's a very dynamic thing to do, and you don't have to make 200 therapeutic interviews. Sometimes one is enough. And I often, when I do this live work in the workshops, this is 15 minutes. And this is really a short therapy. But sometimes I found out that really something changes in these 15 minutes. And I think that's very reassuring for the one who uses it, because if you have to work with a client for hundreds of hours and you still think, still nothing changes, I couldn't stand that. It ruined me.
And it's quite difficult to talk 100 hours and then you stop believing in your own skills and in the client and your own, and there is like you got stuck by yourself. So in the way the provocative system is like a style talking is like a very empowering to the client, but also to the
coach.
Person, to the coach or practitioner.
If you use it, you don't know burnout, because you're not always fighting against a rubber wall. You can see how quick it works with a client, and this is, I think, is very reassuring to see how a client who used to be depressed or horrified by something, it just opens up, and you can see how people feel their own power and their resources. That's great.
Yeah, and on your workshop, those practice and you can experience by yourself how quick your inner state is changing, and your inner thinking is changing, and you are dysregulated and confused, and then finally it's like you're really finding your own way of different way of thinking about the problem, because we are during your workshop, it's what you can experience from the inside as a coach or as a client by ourselves.
Exactly.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's very inspiring for me. It was inspiring to touch from the inside this method.
Great. Good to hear that. And the thing is, these exercises we do, this is 5 or 10 minutes of therapy. This is not a very long time thing. And still, I experienced in the workshops I did in the last 30 years that often people come and say, in this exercise, 5 or 10 minute exercise with participants who tried this out for the first time in their life, something has basically changed. Some people say, yes, my problem has gone. Where is it?
What's happened?
Yes, who knows? So, Ivona, I think we had we covered a lot of questions, did we?
A lot of questions, yes. And Noni, I am really appreciate, and you are very inspiration to me. So thank you so much that you that you agree to talk with me about everything and about everything. Not everything. Let's say a part of this everything in my work.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. So will you be in the workshop in Warsaw?
Yes, we will meet in person this year. I will be in person. Yes. So it was like, and so I am so happy that that in 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, we will see in Warsaw of September 8th. Yeah.
I forgot the date.
So September 9 and
8, 9, 10. I forgot. I will be there. That's for
beautiful.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Noni. Have a wonderful day.
Yes.
And see you in some time.
Okay. Great. Okay. So now I stop the record. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.